Being a parent often changes the way that you think. A lot of the times I find myself wondering, what will my son be like when he's older? What kind of person will he become? What kind of decisions will he make? And whenever I think about these things, I inevitably think about myself when I was younger. I'm nearly 40 now, a couple years away, and I've learned a lot over the last 20 years. And most of it over the last 2, if I'm honest. There are times where I feel like I should have learnt these things a lot earlier in life. So today I want to share a few things about art, about creativity, about life that I wish I knew when I was 20 years old. I wish I knew how important creativity would become. So I've always been an artsy kid. In primary school I used to draw Pokemon, I draw Dragon Ball Z, The Simpsons, I draw my own characters as well. I've always loved art. And in high school, art was the only subject where I got good grades. It was actually the only subject where I placed first. The rest of my subjects I usually placed down the bottom. When I finished high school, I convinced myself that there was no point in pursuing art anymore. Like, getting a career in art would have just been too hard. I believed that there was no value in pursuing a career in art, and I guess my wish was that I'd pursued art more, that I'd pursued creativity more. I've spent the last 10 to 15 years chasing creativity, trying to figure out who I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to create, and it was a thing that I was from the very start. Throughout my life, creativity has kept showing up, just in different ways. Like making these videos, for example, drawing, trying to tell stories, build communities, always trying to make something. I didn't realize that having creativity in my life would be such a beneficial piece of who I've become, and it actually helped me through so many tough times growing up as well. I have a distinct memory of trying to animate Michael Jackson's Moonwalk when my parents were fighting prior to them splitting up. Like, weird thing to remember, but what I take from that is like art and being creative helped me get through some of the harder times in life. It made me realize that art or being creative shouldn't be something that I fall back on when life gets hard. It's something that I should try and nurture in my day-to-day life, because it will take care of me the same way as eating well, sleeping well, going to the gym, all those kinds of things. So I wish I had pursued art more thoroughly throughout my 20s. I wish I had been more comfortable taking risks. So there's this quote from Vincent van Gogh, my favorite artist. What would life be if we had no courage to attempt anything? So I think about my 20s, and a lot of the times I think about the chances that I didn't take, the risks that I wouldn't take. All the things that I regret from my past are when I didn't take the associated risk. And all the things that I've enjoyed the most is when I overcame that fear and I did whatever that risky thing was. So I think one of the things that I wish I could change was pushing myself outside of those comfort zones. So I grew up in a middle income family, and we lived a very comfortable life. So we didn't have to push ourselves very hard, and unfortunately that resulted in, for me anyway, in staying in comfort zones way longer than necessary. So things like I could have moved out of my family home way sooner than I did, and I didn't, because I just didn't have the courage to, step outside what was comfortable for me. I didn't think about traveling as much as I would have liked to. Again, just being in this comfort zone and just not wanting to take risks. I was often waiting for this feeling of like being ready. And the reality is that feeling just doesn't come. Like, it rarely comes. So you really need to just be ready to throw yourself in, and not wait for being ready, because it might not happen. Preparing is important, yes. I get that, but diving into things that scare you is where you'll grow the most. So for me, starting on YouTube, I wanted to do YouTube many, many years ago, but I was scared and I didn't want to take the risk of, people recognizing who I was or speaking out, being awkward on camera. But recently, probably over the last year, I did jump in and I've met such amazing people. I've got to do cool videos with cool people. I get to work on projects, and all of that comes from just throwing myself in the deep end and saying, you know what, I'm not going to be perfect at the start, and that's okay, because everything that I need to know, I will learn on the way, and that's enough. And over the last year, like my videos from a year ago, they're super cringe, as anyone's would be, but taking the risk and jumping in was one of the best things that I've ever done. So to recap, the biggest regrets for a lot of people, I guarantee you, go ask all the people, are the opportunities that they didn't take. So if you can, if it's safe and all that good stuff, please jump in and take that risk. I wish I cared less about what other people thought. I think this is a huge one. I'm sure that this is probably on every single person's list that does this type of video. But yeah, there's this preconception that people think about us way more than they actually do. And it can paralyze us. It really can. Like, we spend, so much time worrying about how we'll be perceived by others. But the reality is, they may look at us, but they're probably just so wrapped in their own lives that they're not going to care. And if they do care, are they really the people that we want around us in the first place? So being on YouTube and a whole bunch of other projects that, I wanted to do a long time ago, but I would talk to my friends or family about it and they would say, oh, that's so hard. Like, it's really hard to start your own business, or are you sure you want to be on, make videos? Like, all these types of people that I had around me stopped me from doing the thing that brings me value and joy. And it was because I was, afraid of what people thought of me. What if these people saw me on camera and, they started talking about me behind my back? The reality is, I don't talk to any of these people in the first place. If someone from my high school saw a video of mine, you know what, I haven't seen them or talked to anyone from my high school in the last 20 years anyway, so what difference does it make? And I think eventually it comes down to people are always gonna judge you. As I've started this journey and I've told people about it, I thought it would be met with more encouragement, but it was almost met with a oh, okay. Like, they either didn't care or they were judging silently. But the reality is, if I live my life based on how people perceive me, I'm just never going to achieve the things that I want to achieve. So the lesson here, I guess, and what I wish I knew earlier, is people are always going to judge you. You know what? You can't control what people think about you. You can only control what you do. And yeah, that's definitely one that I wish I knew in my early 20s. Just wanted to jump in real quick. Hope you've enjoyed the video so far. I've just been recovering from a bit of a viral infection. So if you've enjoyed, if you could like and sub, I'd really appreciate it. Excuse me. What's something you would tell your younger self if it were possible? Yeah, hope you enjoy the rest of the video. I wish I had learned about financial literacy earlier. So I've worked since I was 14 years old. I still remember my first job in a pizza place down the road. I think I was earning $8 an hour or something like that. And I've worked for, gosh, I don't know how many years. I'll pop it on the screen. But if I had financial literacy back then, my financial circumstances may have been completely different. No one taught me about investing. No one taught me about compound interest, how debt works. No one taught me about budgeting. No one taught me about, asset ownership or anything like that. And look, I don't expect people to just go, Bronson, here's some stuff you need to learn. But I think it was also something that maybe the people around me didn't know either. And that's no one's fault, It's on me to educate myself. And again, like I said, I wish I had known earlier in life, because I could have potentially made better financial decisions than I did. But all I can do now is, try and rectify that problem by trying to educate myself, try and educate, my son when he's a little bit older, so when he starts to work, he can make better financial decisions than I did. So yeah, the lesson for this one is take some time and learn financial literacy. It will literally change your life. It doesn't mean you need to budget everything, but just understand how the system works, how the financial systems work, and yeah, it will save you a lot of time, effort, and money in the long run. I wish I understood that life isn't something you arrive at. So when I was younger, I remember I would go up to people that looked around my age and I would say, "Oh, how old are you?" Like it was some sort of competition. And, when I was younger, you think about, "Oh, I can't wait to be an adult and I can't wait to, make money and buy a house and all this kinds of stuff." And then you become an adult and for the most part, you're just trying to figure it out as you go along anyway. So I think what I wish I'd known about this is that each part of life has its own separate challenges and stages, and thinking about ones that haven't happened yet, it doesn't help me, it doesn't help any of the people around me. So I guess what I wish I'd known is, and this is going to sound super cringe, but life isn't a destination, it's the process, or the practice, the presence. And I think that's the difference. I wish I had been present for more of the opportunities that had arisen when I was in my 20s, instead of thinking, "Oh, I can't wait till I have the perfect job and the perfect house and the perfect wife and the perfect kids and all this money," because it doesn't work like that. I think for me anyway, being present and trying to accept how life is in the present moment with its challenges and not thinking too far in the future is the best way forward for me. And like a good example is, when you have kids, they grow really fast, right? And each stage is different and it happens really quickly. So, when I have an infant, I don't want to be saying, "Oh, I have an infant now, I can't wait till he's a toddler." And then when I have a toddler, I can't wait till he's a little boy, and so on and so forth, because you miss really important moments when you're not present. So for this one, I think that what I wish was that I was a bit more present in my life prior to, when my son was born. So those were a few of the things I wish I had known about life and creativity when I was 20 years old. Hopefully it wasn't too scattered. But the funny thing is, if I sit down in another year or two, I could probably, speak to this video, because I'm sure life will change again. And I suppose that's the point, that life is constantly changing, and you learn things and you have to unlearn them as well. And for the most part, we just try and figure things out as we go, and be as present as possible. Enjoy the people that you have around you. If you enjoyed this conversation, I'd love it if you leave a like, and maybe sub as well if that's something you're keen to do. This channel is all about being creative, understanding creativity, trying to build a creative life. And yeah, I'd love if you could be here for the journey. If you could leave in the comments below something you wish you knew when you were 20, or 15, 20, 30, whatever, doesn't matter what age, I would genuinely love to read it. Thank you so much for spending some time here today, and we'll see you again. Thanks.